To start with, Coach Case, just thoughts on first meet as head coach and what you're looking forward to with the group you have that starts this season that'll indoor wise will end with Arkansas hosting NCAA indoor championships.
Yeah. Um, we have 13 new athletes this year on the men's side, and we have 14 guys on our team who have scored at an NCAA meet prior to this year. So, we've got some good depth and some good returners. And, I'm looking forward to this first meet, and probably be business as usual, I expect, as I've been doing all along, but, new added responsibilities. I'm ready to get out there and get this thing going.
Good deal. Hayden, do you have a question?
Yeah, hey coach. Yeah, I guess just for this first meet, I don't know what kind of expectations you have. Is this more of seeing how the fall training will translate into competition, looking out at this weekend?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously this first time out, we don't know where guys are fitness level wise and all those things. So, you know, much of this meet is exploratory, trying to find out where the new guys are, how they compete, how they react to these situations. And, for us, if you're at Arkansas, you're always trying to win the SEC and the NCAA meets. So, we're trying to build our program and build our season through the year so that at the end of the year, when those meets come along, we're in our best shape and we're peaking out and trying to be really good at those times of year. So we're doing a lot of, we call it training through these early meets, and not that we're trying to compete, but we're also trying to be smart and go out there and compete to the level we're at currently. And that's what this is exactly. It's we're gonna see where some guys are. We're gonna see how new athletes react to situations of competition.
Also wanted to ask what you thought of your guys' performance up in Boston a few weeks ago.
They ran pretty good up there. It's so early, they're coming right off that cross country championship, which you can say it helps you, you can say it hurts you. You don't really know until you get up to that meet and get in that situation. But I think we did pretty good. And again, with us, we're always trying to be good at the end of the year. So a lot of these early meets are developmental from that standpoint for us.
And will any of those guys be competing this weekend?
Yeah, we're probably going to run a majority of our team at this meet. Now, they won't run what I would call their premier events. If you're a 60-meter runner primarily, you may run a 400 or a 4x4 or something like that. But for the most part, we're going to try and get most everybody in an event to get them some competition.
That's all I had.
Thanks, Hayden. Christina, did you have a question?
Yeah, Doug, I know we talked last week about, you're taking over the program and everything, so I want to ask you more about your team specifically. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the new transfers you added? I think you added 5 or 6 and what you kind of expect from those guys in this year.
Yeah, I mean, in actually, we have 13 new athletes this year, and, we have 5 kids coming in January right now. So we added a lot of depth and a lot of top end people in many events, from the jumps all the way through the sprints and the distance runners. And like I was saying earlier, you don't know how exactly yet that they're going to react to competition, and you got to see how their race strategies are and talk to them about that. And there's a lot of learning when you have 14 new athletes come in a year, and that's kind of what the portal's done to a lot of sports. We kind of have to learn what our athletes, how they react to situations and how they react to not only the meets but practice situations and things. So it's kind of, every year is like, it's weird, but it's almost like starting over. It's a pretty strange world we're in currently with the portal and everything.
It seems like, just scrolling through the roster, you also have some pretty accomplished guys back, like Rivaldo Marshall and Tyrese Taylor and TJ and a bunch of other guys. But do you feel like this is a pretty veteran team? Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, I would say it's majority of upperclassmen and like I said, we have 14 kids who have scored at an NCAA meet on this roster right now for the men. And that's when I speak to the depth we have, and kids that have experienced it at that level, at SEC level and NCAA level. And there's a lot of pressure when you get to those meets. It's a big time situation, and it's a lot of pressure. And sometimes we've talked about as coaches that it pays off to get there once and feel that pressure and see what it's like. You come back the next year, and then you can, have a chance to be a scorer and do better things.
Last one I have is specifically about Scotty Vines. I know, he had such a good start to the year last year. What do you kind of expect for him now that he's a sophomore?
Scotty's had a great fall, practice wise. And I know we talked about that he'd had some injuries last year and didn't have a great training period going into the season. So, he's very, very talented, great guy, great kid. And I think that from watching his practice, he's going to have a great year. We're not going to jump him this weekend. We're going to hold him out and keep training through a little bit. But, probably get to Razorback in a couple of weeks. That big meet we have, we'll open him up there and see what he can do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Coach Case, with starting the season, and obviously a lot of teams will want to be at this venue with NCAA championships being held here. But for the first weekend, to knock off some rust, but get a couple of quality schools in Tennessee and Iowa among the other schools that are going to be here, offers a good first test, I guess, this weekend.
Yeah. And again, that's when you're talking about some competition coming in. I think you look at our meet schedule this year, all of our indoor meets, they're very, very, there's great teams coming in for this, and I think every weekend, you want to have some competition, and because track's a little different where we don't compete everybody every single weekend, and we don't look for peak performance every weekend. So it's nice that our meet schedule, and people want to run at our track and be in our facilities. And it's nice that our meet schedule, every weekend we have quality teams coming in here. So if we need a big race in the 400, we're going to be able to set that up and have that work out for us. But, that's due to this great facility we have. The Tyson Center is unbelievable. It's been named the fastest indoor track in the world, and I really think it stands up to that. It's a great place, great facility, has a great atmosphere, and there's always the best performances in there.
And finally, this is the weekend where you run some odd distances in terms of getting people back on the track, where you have a 300 or 600 or 1,000. Just what do those type of events help gauge from previous years, and what you're looking forward to with these guys this weekend?
Yep. And we do that specifically so we can gauge people and kind of figure out where they are. Like I was talking about, we don't want to necessarily, if you're primarily a 400-meter dash runner, we don't want every week to go out and run the 400 repetitively over and over. So this meet, we added the 300, we added the 600, we added the 1,000-meter run, and those aren't primarily ran at track meets, and they're not contested at the national championships or the SEC meet. So it gives you a chance to run a good race, a hard race, and it gives an indication of where you are without literally running the premier race that you're going to run the rest of the season. And that's the reason we add those events in here. And a lot of people like it. A lot of people enter those events.